Foundation. We've got Mr. Kurt Mortensen in the house. I want to thank Steve Gibson and that whole team from the Academy for Creative Enterprise. You can go to the-academy.org. They have 1,000 chapters around the world. They're a nonprofit organization, and you can join one of those organizations. We're going to teach it to you digitally on your phone, but we'd love to have you work with these groups as well. These are great people. They're great people, and we highly encourage that you do that. But we're going to talk about the rules of thumb, and one of those is to keep good records. Now, why do we keep good records? I'll just tell you, in my opinion, the reason we keep good records is because we want to know how well you're doing. So I don't mix my businesses with my personal expenses. They're separate. And then I can see how well they're doing it. And if you can see money coming in, money going out, you can see what's working, what's not working, but we want to turn it to math. We don't want to be making emotional decisions. We like to make mathematical decisions. 1 + 1 = 2. But if you don't know how well you're doing, if you don't know the money that's coming in, you don't know the money that's going out, well, both of those are an issue. So I'm going to turn the time over to Kurt. Kurt's in the house. We're going to be talking about success and money, the rules of thumb about keeping good records. Go ahead, Kurt.
Thanks for returning to the Rules of Thumb from the Academy for Creating Enterprise. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we make things happen. Thanks for being here. Today's rule of thumb is to keep good records. Everybody cheer, right? Your favorite thing to do, but this is one of those things you have to do. We have to understand the importance of keeping daily records, not monthly, not annually, but daily records from our inventory to our sales, to our expenses, to the cash we have on hand. We have to understand where we're at. This is how you keep the score. This is how you know where you're at in your business. So this is rule of thumb number 5. Keeping those good records, what to do, how to do it. We're going to talk about that today. Remember, our goal, of course, is get started. Do a little bit every day. And after you do that, we grow it a little bit every day. Then we expand it. And then all throughout, as we're acting, we're giving back, we're helping out, making the world a better place. So before we get started, let's get into another voice, a video from YouTube. And this is Kate Costa talking about, there's 2 different camps out there. There's one that just keep everything for too long, too much, and those who don't keep anything. Now, these laws depend on your country. We're going to help you figure out a system to do this. So watch this video and see the importance of keeping good records.
In my experience working with entrepreneurs, there seem to be 2 main camps of people. Those that save absolutely everything forever, and those that couldn't show you yesterday's receipts if their lives depended on it. Now, clearly, neither of these is an effective way of keeping records within your business. So what do you really need to hang on to, and what should you get rid of in an effort to declutter and get organized? Firstly, you absolutely must keep the basics on hand because you're required by law to have them. The basics include your primary business documents, such as your articles of incorporation, bylaws, and any permits you're required to have, your financial and tax information, any business agreements, such as contracts with suppliers or customers, or employment agreements with your staff, and legal documents, such as board meeting minutes and records of any decision-making and anything else to prove that you've met legal or regulatory requirements that apply to you. For everything else that you're not legally required to keep on hand, it can get a little trickier to decide what should be saved and what should be tossed. But there are a few times when you definitely need to keep the files. If you're involved in any litigation of any type, obviously keep anything that may be relevant until that litigation is completely concluded. If your business still relies on any information, obviously keep it around until it's no longer useful. If there are regulatory actions underway that could affect your business or what you need to have around, stay on the safe side and just keep it. After you put a system in place for keeping track of your records, make sure that you're also doing what's necessary to keep those records safe. For everything else, you should still be sure that your records are properly secure from things like flood and fire, and from theft or even just wandering eyes. If the records are especially important and they're in hard copy form only, it's probably advisable to make e-copies of everything and to make sure that everything is backed up so you'll never really lose those records should something happen at your office that wipes out the physical documents and destroys your computer. By carefully crafting a document control strategy, you'll be in a better position with your business in terms of both legal compliance and organization and efficiency. The sooner you implement such a strategy, the better off you'll be. So don't wait to get organized or you may find yourself in some hot water.
So there you see why it's so important to keep records, what it means for you, your business, for taxes, for your future, for growing your business. Again, laws are going to vary by country, what you need to keep, how long you keep them, make sure you find that out. But when in doubt, keep it, put it into a safe place, have a system to be able to put all those numbers together. Maybe it's weekly, maybe it's daily, maybe it's monthly, maybe you're going to have someone else do it for you, but it needs to be done. So let's get into a case study about Jose. Jose is a plumber who started his own plumbing business 6 years ago. After a few months, his business began to run out of money, and he could not buy any more inventory. He started to look for some money. He needed either someone who could lend him some money or someone who could become his business partner by investing some money in the business in order to keep it running. He found Pepe, a very successful businessman. The first time they met, Pepe asked Jose to have all of his inventory records ready so that he could look over them. Jose was a bit shocked. He had never kept track of his inventory and wouldn't have a single sheet of paper to show Pepe. When Pepe arrived, he saw the condition that the business was in and how unorganized Jose was. Pepe thanked Jose for the partnership invitation, but declined to go any further in the business. He told Jose that he needed to be able to see how much money was being spent on different inventory items. In addition, he needed to be able to see what items were being sold. And when they were being sold, he even wanted to be able to see who was buying the items. He wanted to see the receipts of the purchases and the records of sales. Jose, unfortunately, had none of these records. Shocked and motivated by Pepe's rebuke of his business operations, Jose spent the next 3 weeks counting and organizing his inventory. To his surprise, he had more than 3,000 nails, 2,000 screws, 30 pounds of unused glue, and more. Jose began to realize he had wasted money on too many items like nails and screws that he didn't even need. Jose learned some valuable lessons from this experience. So what lessons did Jose learn from this experience? It was an eye-opener. He needed the money to save his business, but he wasn't ready to do it. It took him 3 weeks to organize everything and find out the numbers, but that it was too late when you needed an investor or you needed a loan or you need to show somebody exactly where you're at. You need to know these numbers. Now, what prevents people from keeping records? Laziness, not thinking it's important, I will when I make more money, I don't know how. All could prevent us from keeping records. Sometimes we look at that box of receipts that we're supposed to organize. So which one's holding you back? Let's fix it, because there are advantages to have accurate records. This is your scorecard. You can see when you're winning. You can see when you're losing. It should give you hope in the future. If you need it for a future partnership, a future loan, the information is there. Again, this is your scorecard. This is how you know where you're at in the business. So let's get into that expert advice. Knowing that records do no good for anyone unless they're reviewed and analyzed frequently. I would go daily if you can, weekly if you must. Monthly's too late. Annually, no way. You have to look at them, see you're at. This is your scorecard. This is where you know where you're winning, where you're losing, what you need to do. You can look at trends and patterns and things that you need to know to grow your business. Peace of mind comes from having detailed knowledge of what's going on in your business. You sleep better at night. You know exactly where you're at. You know if you can afford a new item. You know if you need to upgrade. You know if you could buy more inventory and quantity. This is what tells you. Another is knowing what is written in your records protects you from making the same mistakes over and over again. I mean, look at Jose. Had all the glue, all the nails, all the screws, enough for probably a couple of years. But he kept going to the store and kept buying it, because he didn't know what was in inventory and he wasn't keeping track, wasn't keeping records. Also, you should study your business plans daily, like we talked about, keeping the score. Daily always is preferred, updating it daily, because when you do that, it doesn't get so overwhelming. Or have someone else take care of it. You should keep daily records on 4 specific aspects of your business. This is the information you need to keep track of. Now again, you need to decide what works for you. Is it a box full of receipts? Or pull them out of your pocket every day, you put them into the computer. There are apps, there are software, there are websites, there are people that'll do it for you. Some people just do it manually in a spreadsheet. You choose what works for you. It just needs to be done. Don't care how you do it. You just have to do it. And there's so many different ways that you can do it. You just need to make it happen. So here is the first of the 4 areas. One is inventory. So in this one, you have to keep track of your inventory, know what you have so you don't overspend, buy redundant items, be able to see your patterns of purchasing and what you need, but you need to name each specific item that you buy and be as specific as possible. If you're buying a lot of different types of screws, maybe this is a 2-inch, this is a 1-inch, this is for this type of wall, this is for that type of wall. Be specific. And then how many of each item you buy. So that way you know with one look on a piece of paper or a spreadsheet or on your phone how many you have of each item. Then also with inventory, the cost per item. So how much did you pay? So it costs $100 for 10, you paid $10 a piece. And of course, the date you purchase the inventory, especially when things expire, you've got to use the older ones first. But it also lets you monitor when prices go up based on date. The second area is sales. So when you sell something, a description of the item, it was a mango, it was a haircut, bag full of groceries, did you cut down a tree, was there coaching, consulting? That's a description. The date on which it was sold, and the time if possible. Sometimes you don't always need that, but when you're doing a lot of sales, sometimes it can be helpful, especially looking at patterns to see most of your sales come from this time to this time. Then whether the purchase was made by cash, check, or credit. We'll be talking soon. Be very careful selling on credit. You love to buy on credit, but be careful selling on credit. And then put down the name of the customer, the person, the company, whatever is appropriate in that space. Then the third area is expenditures. This is where money's going out. This is a bill. This is a service for you. This is money you're spending. So a description of the item, of the service. What is it that you bought? The date at which you bought the item or received the service. And again, depending on your business, the time if possible. And a lot of your apps and software will automatically put in the time for you, so you don't have to think about it. But if you're doing it manually, put in the time. The next thing to add is, okay, what's the purchase price? How much did you spend? Now, did you purchase that with cash, check, or credit? Where was it purchased? That can be important if you're purchasing the same type of product at different locations, how much you spent, the time, where it was at, so you know where you're getting the best deals. The final area is your cash. Add up all the sales you've had for the day, calculate how much money you should have received, because you want to make sure these numbers match. Calculate how much money you have spent on inventory or bill paying, figure out exactly how much cash should be left, that should be in your cash register or safe. Count the cash from the cash register or drawer. Compare those two numbers. If they match, all right, good day, your cash is balanced. If they don't, you need to find what is missing. Did you forget about cash in the drawer? Did you forget to write down a sale? You need to get that to balance. And put that extra money into a safe deposit box or bank account. And now you have those numbers, you can create an income statement. And we've talked about this in past courses. Pretty simple. You write income statement, your company name, and the date. Usually you do it monthly. I mean, you're updating it daily, but every month that's your snapshot, and then you can roll the numbers into the next month. So this would be for June. Put down the date, and then you take those areas we talked about and you plug them into this income statement. Very simple. For example, revenue. This is what you sold, how much money you made that day. You have it balanced, you put in that number. All right. So this is cost of goods sold. So this is what it cost you. You're looking at all your expenses, all the money you spent, you put it there. Then you subtract operating expenses. What was your rent for that day? If it was monthly rent, you'll divide it by 30, 31, whatever the month is. So it could be rent, it could be insurance, it could be employees. Those are operating expenses, minus any taxes that you had to pay that day. And then that's your number, your net profit. That is what you made that day. That's how you keep the score. That's how we know how well you are doing. So what is your homework? Which one of those areas do you want to work on first? Now, all of them are important, but there might be one that's really top of the list you need to take care of. Is it your inventory? Is it keeping track of your sales? Keeping track of your expenditures or expenses? Or keeping track of your cash on hand? Again, we want to do all of them. Which one do you work on first? And then how are you going to do it? Software or app? On a piece of paper? On a spreadsheet? Have somebody else do it? Whatever you decide how it's going to get done every day. So let's finish up with a fable. The Weaver and the Vanishing Profits. In a bustling marketplace, there lived a weaver named Margaret. Her looms hummed day and night, weaving vibrant fabrics of silk and wool. Her product were all the nice homes. In the homes of nobles, her merchants loved her scarfs, and the travelers loved her rugs. She was wealthy, well-known, and content. However, Margaret had a peculiar habit. She never kept records of her sales. Why bother with the numbers? She'd say, I know how much I sell, and that's all that matters. But one day, a sly merchant named Joseph approached Margaret, said, Your fabrics are awesome. They're incredible. I would like to buy a large shipment for my caravans. Margaret, of course, was happy. She was delighted. She agreed. Joseph paid Margaret a large sum of money, but he insisted on a significant discount. He says, look, I'm a large buyer, right? He's negotiating here. I could bring you more customers. Margaret, eager to expand her business, said, all right, you can have the discount. So days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months, and Joseph never returned. Margaret, puzzled, tried to determine how much she had lost, but she didn't have any records. She couldn't recall the exact amount of the discount that she sold. Worried, Margaret sought the advice of a wise merchant named Darius. Darius said, look, without records, you're selling a ship without a compass. You cannot track your expenses, calculate your profits, or identify areas for improvement. Now Margaret started to get it. She started recording every sale, every expense, every transaction. She learned to analyze her records, identify her most profitable products, and negotiate better deals with her customers. Slowly but surely, she rebuilt her business, wiser and more prosperous than ever. She learned that accurate records were not just about numbers, they were the foundation of sound business practices, providing valuable insights and guiding her towards growing her business. What is the moral of this story? Just as a ship needs a compass to navigate, a business needs a compass, which is accurate records to chart its course. Without these records, you don't know where you're going. You can't track your progress. You don't know how far you've gone. You don't know where to improve. You can't make informed decisions. This is one of your keys for long-term growth of your business. So remember your homework. What are you going to do first? Maybe you want to put them in order as far as 1, 2, 3, 4. You need to do all 4, but where is that area that's really holding you back? Inventory, sales, expenditures or expenses, and the cash coming in. And how are you going to do this? Pick the way you're going to do it. So there you have it. That's your rule of thumb, keeping those good records from the Academy of Creating Enterprise. Make sure you understand the importance of keeping records. Keep track of those 4 areas. Make it happen. Do it and grow your business and make a difference.
Thanks, Kurt. You know, the big thing for me is I've created all kinds of businesses, and our businesses have done hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of sales. Is I like to make not emotional decisions. I like to make mathematical decisions. And the math has to be add, subtract, multiply, or divide. I don't want to do trigonometry. I want this to be so simple. And your goal is to figure out how to simplify your business as simple as possible so that you can keep track of it. And then you're going to simplify and then multiply. And again, a big thanks to Steve Gibson and the whole the Academy. Go to the Academy, the-academy.org. See if you can find a local group somewhere around the world. Join that group. They're a wonderful organization. And make a difference. Make it happen. Remember, every life is precious. Thanks for watching.